Hey everyone, welcome back to Ginknits. I'm your host, Ginny, and today I wanted to talk about my October favorites. And I'm calling it October favorites because what I really want to do is talk about what I've knit so far this year, but I think I'm going to save that for a later video and do a whole sort of 2025 year in review because there's been a lot of knitting. But otherwise, now that like the weather's starting to change, I'm really starting to crave knitting. I mean, I crave knitting all the time, but I really have been just enjoying it more than usual. I don't know, is that like a seasonal thing? Do you feel that way? As the seasons change, does it make you want to knit more or less? You let me know. But anyway, so in this October favorites, I wanted to go through what I've been knitting, sort of whether I've completed it in October or just what I've been wearing a lot, what yarn I've been buying, what projects I've been starting, just a general sort of chat through those things. And if you like the sound of that, then keep watching. So the first thing I want to talk about is this sweater. It's the Terzo sweater by PetiteKnit, and I knit it in 2 strands of merino in the color cognac and 1 strand of soft silk mohair in the color brown bear. And it's turned out to be this really beautiful warm brown that isn't too like tobacco-y and sort of warmth, you know what I mean? And it's also not too dark where you lose the stitch definition. That is Poppy. Since finishing it, I've worn it a ton and it's been such a wonderful sweater. It's actually the second time I've knit this pattern. I knit it the first time for my boyfriend in a 1 strand of knitting for olive heavy merino in the color oatmeal and 1 strand of soft silk mohair in the color cloud. And that became this, and that was this really beautiful oatmeal-y color, hence the name, but you know what I mean, like oatmeal, sort of warm beige. And I liked that sweater so much that it inspired me to make this one. And I don't know why I didn't choose heavy merino, honestly, because using knitting for olive merino, I actually think it makes a better fabric. It's a little bouncier. I kind of find the heavy merino a little bit papery, although it is really durable. So that's where I stand on it. I used to use it more. Now I use it less for the papery reason. And I think the merino is just softer. But, you know, I've really enjoyed wearing this sweater. I really enjoyed knitting this sweater. It knitted up really, really fast. I stuck pretty close to pattern. I sized up 1 needle size, because generally with PetiteKnit patterns, I do have to size up a needle size at least to hit gauge or hit something sort of near gauge where I'm comfortable enough going from there. It's because I'm an English style knitter, and I think she's a continental style knitter, and I think English knitters tend to knit tighter. Is that true? Because I think it's true. It's certainly true for me. So yeah. That's my Terzo sweater, and this is number 1 in my October favorites. So number 2 in my October favorites is my Moby vest. And this Moby vest I knit it in the spring, but I finished it in probably the end of May, and because of all the cables, it became too thick of a sweater or too thick of a vest to wear in the summer, obviously. So I'm really now just getting into the season where I can wear it both with and without a shirt underneath. Because all of those cables, it makes quite a dense fabric. It's the first sweater or vest, I keep calling it a sweater, but it's a vest. It's the first vest or cable piece I've ever done. So if you don't know, the Moby vest is by PetiteKnit. A very well-loved pattern. It also comes in a sweater, if I'm not mistaken. And I chose to do the vest partly because I wasn't sure if I would like cabling or if I would be very good at cabling. So I was sort of thinking, you know, if it's a vest, it's a little bit more manageable. I don't have to manage the arm decreases. But all in all, it was super duper successful. I really love this pattern. I knit it in one strand of Fonte Urga in the color 04, I think, and one strand of knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair in the color Hazel. And it's turned into this really beautiful sort of taupey brown that is so wearable, and this yarn is so soft. Oh my gosh. Fonte Urga, if you can get your hands on it. I got it from Beautiful Knitters in London. If you can get your hands on it, it's really amazing yarn. It's really special. I think it's yak and merino, and the yak makes it particularly soft, but it's also quite a warm wool. So that's why I haven't really been able to enjoy this until now in October. One of my favorite things about the Moby vest is all the different sort of patterns, and it's a really easy chart to memorize. It's actually the first chart I've ever worked off of. But PetiteKnit has written the pattern in such a way that every single time the cable crosses, also this sort of faux cable crosses. So you could really keep track of where you were in their pattern. Once you memorized the chart, you didn't have to keep looking, and I really appreciated that. And I enjoyed actually knitting this so much that I either want to do an all over cable or even the Moby sweater sometime this winter, but I do kind of want to get it onto my needles somewhat soon because such a textured knit takes a little while, so I need to budget a little bit of time for that. But number 3 in my October favorites is scarf number 1 by My Favorite Things, and I knit this in, I think it was July, and it was because I needed a travel knit. I needed something small, something that I could just put in my purse, and I actually got inspired by those twins who knit. They have this really wonderful knitting podcast if you're into those, and I was inspired, and I bought the pattern, I think, almost immediately after. And I knit this scarf number 1 in the smaller size. There's 2 sizes. I knit it, I don't know the color exactly, but it's in this beautiful sort of camel cashmere color. The yarn is Cardiff cashmere, and I really love it. I love how it would just make the perfect sort of scarf for the winter when you have a coat and there's that sort of space showing, but you don't want to wear a whole big scarf. You just kind of need a bit of a neck covering. So I think it'll get quite a bit of wear, and because it's cashmere, it's really comfortable right up on your neck. I'm kind of sensitive. There's certain yarns that I wouldn't knit. Excuse me. There's certain yarns that I wouldn't want right on my neck. I would get kind of itchy, but cashmere is not one of them. So I think I will be wearing this quite a bit. The weather has kind of been changing, and I started to need a few more layers. So I think this definitely will get some more wear in October, but it will get more and more wear as the winter and fall go on. Actually, there's one thing. Well, can you see I haven't woven in my ends yet? Excuse me. I have a cat who's nibbling my elbow. I was kind of thinking about putting on a button or some sort of a, I don't think a snap, but I'm sort of worried about if I tie it, I'll lose length, and I kind of want the length because I don't want it to like be super tight around my neck. I'd like it to be a little bit looser. I was limited by the amount of yarn that I had. This was some yarn that I had in stash that I just wanted to use up, and I didn't want to order more in the same color. So I probably could have put in another stripe, but otherwise, I think if I can figure out how to do sort of a button, or I haven't really decided, I think I'll be able to do it, but I haven't decided on what sort of clasp to do. So if you have any thoughts or ideas on a clasp or a tie or some sort of like a fixture that I could put at the back that when I wear it, I won't feel it or see it, let me know in the comments below. So that is my scarf number one. So for my fourth October favorite, it is my cardigan number 9 by My Favorite Things. And this is knit up in one strand of Sandusgarn Pure Gint in the color 4018 and one strand of Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair in the color Blood Orange. And if you can see, I don't know if the camera's picking up on it, they're slightly different colors. The Blood Orange is a little bit orangey-er, which has made for such a beautiful combination and such a beautiful fabric. It's bright, but it's not too orange, and it's also not too fire truck red. So I was really kind of conscious about not wanting it to be super fire truck red because, I don't know, I don't really wear red all that often, but I was so inspired by all the red cardigans that I was seeing on Instagram over the last year that I was like, well, you know, when I have the time, I really would like to start one of those. So I did find the time this summer, and I knit up my cardigan number 9. I still haven't put the buttons on, but I have marked for them. And I do have the buttons. I'm thinking about doing dark wooden toggle buttons, which is what the pattern requests or specifies. And this is the second time I've knit cardigan number 9, and I've loved knitting it both times. My favorite part, I think, about the pattern is this beautiful kind of bump. And I've seen other knitters online translate that sort of double knitted edge to crew necks, and it's just so beautiful. It really does add this like perfect detail to an otherwise perfect cardigan. I think the shape is so nice. I sized down, and now I can't really remember why. I think I knit the first size, but I probably should have knit the second size because I find, I mean, it fits, but I seem to want roomier cardigans. So that's my only critique, but that has nothing against the pattern. That's just against me. And since I've cast it off, I think I cast it off maybe a month ago. No, maybe the end of August. No, beginning of August. So that's more than a month ago, but whatever. Since I cast off this cardigan, I've worn it a ton, and I've even worn it a ton without buttons. There was a while that I was like, well, maybe I don't even need the buttons, but I do think I want the buttons, especially as the weather starts to change, and I'll probably want to button it up. But I just had this idea of it looking so beautiful with like black trousers or blue jeans and just kind of this pop of red that has been so trendy, but now I can see why. I don't think I've owned anything in red. So this might be the first thing that I own in red, and I'm quite excited about it. So that is the 4th. So that is number 4 on my October favorites. So the fifth thing on my October favorites isn't necessarily yarn or a finished project, but it is a new book that I got, and it is Knit by Alice Hoyle of Rose Knitwear. And I might be so late to the Rose Knitwear knitting party, but oh my gosh, is this woman an incredible pattern designer. I feel like now that I've been knitting for a couple of years, I'm starting to get interested in knitting. I'm starting to feel a little bit more confident in branching out of kind of the basics, and I feel like I've really built out my wardrobe to be quite basic, and I do love that. I love wearing simpler clothing, but there's something about Rose Knitwear and her designs that are just so impressive. And she came out with this new bag. It's not in the book, but it's on Instagram, and that really is what inspired me to buy the book. And there's something about knitwear books that I do want to grow my knitwear book collection. It's just so inspiring to sort of see how creative designers are, and just I had no idea you could make fabrics like these on knitting needles. So that is one of my October favorites. I think we're at number 5. And I've just been enjoying flipping through this book. There have just been such amazing ideas. I think that sort of squiggly sweater, I think this one, I'd love to knit at some point this winter. And then there's like bags, and I don't want to, you know, show too much. Like, how beautiful is that? Isn't that amazing? I'm just so incredibly impressed, and I'm so excited to start knitting some of these sweaters and hats and mittens and just accessories. And I think I'm just gonna work my way through this book, and I'm so excited. So that has been such an exciting purchase as of late. And now for what I'm working on. Well, I actually am working on 2 projects. I'm working on a cashmere hat, and this is the Wits Knit 70s ski hat by Pearl Soho in 2 strands of Cardiff cashmere in this gray color, in the color 78. And this has been, it's knitted up quite fast, but I was really inspired by this ski hat shape, because sometimes I find hat designs either sort of like a skull cap or a little too pointy or a little too thick. Like, there's something about knitting these sort of smaller projects that maybe it's harder, maybe it's like a harder pattern to write. I don't know. There's kind of a specific shape in my mind that I think I would like, but I can't seem to find a pattern for that, which probably means that I should write my own pattern for that, though I'm not quite there yet. But anyways, this hat, I just loved the shape, and the pattern is written for a multicolored stripe design in it, which I think is really cute. I just sort of wanted something plain, and I wanted it to knit up fast because, like I said, the weather is changing, and I just want something to be super cozy in, and something that I kind of would wear at any time, and it's sort of quiet and unremarkable. But I don't mean it in like a negative way. I mean it in sort of just a simple basic to fill a gap in my wardrobe, and so that's what I thought this hat would do. I can't really comment on the size yet. It looks like a pretty good size. It might be a little bit big, but I'm not really sure. I sized up on my needles to a size 8. The pattern is written for a size 7, but I like the density of the fabric that it's creating, so I think it's no problem, and that is what I had to do to get gauge, because like I said, I am a tight knitter. So all in all, I've really enjoyed knitting this hat. I think it'll be done pretty quickly based on the size. And I am hoping it'll be, I'm just hopeful about this shape. There's something about sort of that pointiness without it being like an apex, but like this, instead of it being sort that round point that, I don't know, it's just not for me. It doesn't like suit my head shape. But I'm hopeful about this shape, and if this hat is all that I hope it will be, you'll be the first to know. Then the second item that I am knitting is the sweater number 23 by My Favorite Things, and I'm knitting it in 2 strands of merino by Knitting for Olive in the color Deep Petroleum, and 1 strand of soft silk mohair in the color Dusty Petroleum, and it's made this beautiful blue. I didn't really know that this is what petroleum blue is called, because it's not the color of petroleum, but anyway, it has been really enjoyable to knit. I've knit this pattern before. I've actually knit it twice, and I've enjoyed it both times. This sweater will be for my brother, so it is quite big, and I'm knitting it maybe like the second biggest size. I think if I size, and it's an oversized sweater with quite a bit of positive ease, so if I go for a larger size, it'll probably end up being pretty well sized, and that is the extent of the thought I put into the sizing. So I'm hopeful that it'll be sized correctly, but ultimately I think it'll be great, and I think he'll really love it. I think I've knit him a hat before, but I had knit my boyfriend a striped sweater in the spring, and my brother came over and he was admiring it and tried it on and really wanted a sweater. So I thought, what better than to knit him one for Christmas. So that is this sweater number 23. And I'm actually just waiting on a little bit more yarn. As I mentioned, I'm doing it in 2 strands of merino, which makes for such a lovely fabric. It's actually just kind of expensive, right? Like because you need to buy then double the amount of yarn that you otherwise would use. But I mean, I think it's worth it because of the fabric that you're creating. Oh, I sized up 1 needle size, but I usually have to do that anyway. So I'm knitting it on a 9 instead of an 8, which is making it knit up quite fast. And I'm really enjoying it. So that is my sweater number 23. Please let me know what you're knitting this October, what is inspiring you, what yarn you're buying. I just want to know all the details. And if you're still here, thank you so much for watching. It really has been so fun to spend some time with you today, and I can't wait to see you all soon. So with that, thank you so much. Bye guys.